Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here. A few months ago, I ranked every original Don Bluth villain. Today, I'm going to rank all the sequel villains. If a character doesn't end up on this list, it's because it didn't give me enough to talk about. Let's begin. Icky and Dill from The Land Before Time 4. Icky the Ichthyornis and Dill the Deinonychus are a pair of villains who are working together to try and eat Littlefoot and friends. Icky is too scrawny to be scary, and Dill lacks eyesight as a hunter. But together, they're an all-seeing force to be reckoned with, because they compensate for each other's flaws. While I do appreciate that they help to teach kids about symbiosis in nature, and show how such a partnership can make for a very effective predatory dynamic. From Icky's flying skills coming to an advantage in many scenes, to Dill's brawn making for effective brute strength. These two are still honestly some of the most annoying villains I've ever seen. All they ever do is bicker and argue about hating each other. They're so miserable together that it's not even fun. And their constant fighting is so grating that I always want to skip their scenes.
I would not. You would too. Would not. Would too. Would not, would not, would not.
I'd happily give them a free pass if their squabbling had comedic merit, but it's just the same quarrels on a cycle, whether they're complaining about the other's existence or threatening to split up as a duo. They never ever get funny, and it's such a waste of the talented Jeff Bennett and Tress MacNeille.
I need you like a hole in the head.
And I need you like a bug in the bed.
When the comedy isn't about these two falling out again and again, the film goes for dated Mr. Magoo jokes at the expense of Dill's blindness. There's only so many times you can make the joke, "Oh, she can't see," but boy does this film milk it.
Oh.
Hurry, Sarah! Belly draggers can't climb!
I really wanted to like these two, because the symbiosis aspect makes for an interesting villain duo setup. The Land Before Time 4 stretches their premise very thin, and struggles to make them entertaining for a whole movie. Martin from The Secret of NIMH 2. Martin is Mrs. Brisby's eldest son, and he's annoyed that his little brother is being picked as the chosen one. Then, years later, it's revealed that NIMH scientists have enhanced Martin's intelligence, and he's ended up taking over NIMH by making all the staff think that they're dogs. He's a very, very poorly foreshadowed twist villain. When Martin is introduced, he's open about envying his brother.
I'm older and stronger than you. If Thorn Valley wanted Jonathan Brisby's son, why'd they pick the runt?
But he also tries his best to support Timmy as an older sibling.
Look, I'm sorry, Timmy. You'll do great. Really. Come on, or you'll miss your flight.
Why would a potential villain in the making give our hero pointers? Sure, he declares that he's destined for great things, but it's a super vague declaration that doesn't exactly hint that he wants to be a supreme overlord one day.
I have a destiny too. It's just not fair.
So yeah, I don't buy that this Martin is on his way to becoming this Martin. Sure, a lot of his evil stems from an insanity brought on from being a NIMH mouse descendant who has been extra experimented on, resulting in a fried super brain. But nowhere before the big reveal are there clues that Martin has become evil suddenly. We hear that he's ended up in NIMH, but that's it.
My mom's letter said he disappeared. She had no idea what happened to him.
Well, he's at NIMH.
Sure, we hear evil Martin's voice in a cutaway scene, but we don't know that he's British now, and there's far more effort into making a NIMH scientist the red herring.
Now, you brainless furballs, you can be my personal servants. Pass the hat, cat. Yes, my niece. Yes, my evil chip. That's Dr. Valentine to you.
However, the reason why Martin isn't lower is because, well, he's still very, very entertaining as a campy scenery-chewing baddie, mainly thanks to a delightfully silly Eric Idle, who really sounds like he's having a blast behind the mic.
Soon to be zapped, friends, will be my willing soldiers. Quite a shock. No pun intended.
Secret of NIMH 2 is a super boring sequel to sift through, so it's kinda satisfying to have this fun, sword-swinging mad genius to spice things up finally, even if said villain comes completely out of nowhere. Carface from the All Dogs Go to Heaven sequels. In All Dogs 2, Carface poses as a loyal angel in heaven, but is actually working for the Cat Devil Red in a bid to retrieve Gabriel's horn. Carface has shifted from being a sinister gangster to the lackey for a feline demon. It's a big change in character, but it's fascinating to see the once sinister gangster in a lower position of power, and serving as an apprentice of evil for a literal devil, all while being desperately eager to please said master of darkness.
The hour's up. You know what they say, boss. Patience is...
While he is basically the snivelling sidekick trope for the most part, he's not completely lost his ways. He's still a very effective antagonist and manipulator. Whether he's seducing the impulsive Charlie into his master's dark arts,
As long as I'm wearing this baby, I'm flesh and blood.
Where'd you get it?
A buddy of mine has him.
or using a child as helpless bait to get his way.
Bring the item to Alcatraz in 1 hour, or Junior here doesn't have a prayer.
Oh, and once Red is defeated, we learn that the Cat Devil now owns Carface's soul, and the gangster gets the comeuppance that he deserves after selling out Dogkind. It's the perfect end to this villain story.
When they come,
Then, An Old Dog's Christmas Carol climbed out of the sewers and into bargain bins everywhere. A film that decided that Carface would be perfect for the part of Scrooge? A casting choice that flops harder than a dry fish on land. Because Carface is not some redeemable lost soul with the potential to do good. He's a pure evil underground criminal who has committed first-degree murder and exploited children, without any remorse or regret for both. This festive film goes to emotionally manipulative extremes to make this scumbag seem sympathetic, but it doesn't work, and just comes off as insulting. The film really should have just created a brand new dog character to play Scrooge instead. Heck, even after Carface supposedly becomes a good dog, it's all very half-hearted, because he's still cruel to his minion in the end, and even says that his redemption is just a temporary thing.
don't expect it to last long. I still got a business to run, you know.
Belladonna, from An Old Dog's Christmas Carol. Belladonna is the demonic cousin of Annabelle the Angel, who plans to use the dog whistle to force all the pups of San Francisco into handing their owner's presents over to Carface. There's no exact reason why Belladonna hates Christmas, which might annoy some people, but I don't think every villain needs some deep backstory or convoluted twist to explain their evil in detail. There's a charming simplicity to a baddie who hates Christmas because it represents all things good and wholesome.
If Chuckles here gets all the goodies, what do you get?
Me? I get to ruin Christmas.
The best thing about Belladonna, though, is the sense of impending doom that she brings across San Francisco. A daunting Xmas apocalypse that keeps looming over as the clock draws closer to midnight. All while our heroes can only lean on the faint hope of Carface's redemption.
Oh no, we're losing him.
I'm not scared of you, you see?
Oh, and a giant whistle for brainwashing pups is quite an intense machine. This hellish contraption that sends a high-pitched spell across the city, forcing innocent canines into a dark trance. Unfortunately, all her flamboyant flair and devilish intimidation gets dunked into the trash bin in the finale when Carface and Killer turn their backs on her. And suddenly, right out of nowhere, Annabelle decides to finally do something, despite earlier claiming that she was powerless, and all she could do was offer a little bit of magic to our heroes.
People belong to themselves, so they can choose between good or evil. And it's my duty to protect that.
Oh, so she can't save a whole city of vulnerable pets from a widespread occult brainwashing, but if two gangster murderers show a tiny glimmer of maybe changing this Christmas, then she can totally intervene with mortal affairs. Give me a bloody break. Then the disappointment keeps on coming, when Belladonna is underwhelmingly beaten by, no kidding, a pile of snow. Even though she's a fiery devil from burning hell, movie, you do know that fire melts snow, right? Talk about a rubbish villain defeat. Hip, from The Land Before Time 3. This creep loves to bully Littlefoot and friends on a daily basis, as he turns their playful games together into chances to belittle or threaten them. Sure, there are bigger dinosaurs out there, and the kids even point out that they'll be bigger than him once they're grown-ups. But right now, he towers over his young bully victims.
Oh yeah? Well, I'm gonna see to it that you never grow up.
He feels really proud to be an older kid in the Great Valley, so much so that he even sings a song about the joys and freedom of being a teenager.
You're big, you can push all the little ones around. They're looking up while you are looking down.
He knows that he's in a position of power, and he's actually happy being called a bully.
Me no bully either. But I am.
His dim-witted minions are just as big and mean-looking as him. But it's obvious that Hip is in charge, and his friends are only here to back him up.
You're rock, Who said it was your rock? Yeah, who said it was your rock, huh? Who said? Who said?
However, we get the impression that he's not that tough, because he does sometimes run away when scared, but he's in total denial that he ever feels fear, and will scrape for excuses to keep his bully image up.
You were afraid of those big flying rocks? I was not. I just ran because you guys did. I didn't want you to feel stupid.
This repressed sensitivity is explained deeper later on when we meet Hip's father, a bad-tempered dad who parents so aggressively that Hip cowers around him.
Hip, here we are chasing after you when we should be finding a way to free the water. I thought I told you to stay where it was safe.
Creating a cycle of abuse that gets projected onto Littlefoot and friends, which is quite authentic to real child psychology. Luckily, Hip's dad vows to change his ways, and this rubs off on his impressionable son.
Now get in there and help, you creeps. Okay, everybody, let's get them.
I like that Hip doesn't just magically turn into some wholesome angel. No, he retains his tough guy shtick, but now embraces sort of an anti-hero persona. It's how a character like Hip would realistically and naturally redeem himself.
You feeling okay, Hip? You're talking about sharing.
Yeah, sharing.
I know that. Not sharing is for scaredy eggs, right?
Hip is still Hip, it's just that he has a better role model for a dad now.
Did you hear that? More green food.
How wonderful!
Where? I mean, where, son?
Ozzy and Strut from The Land Before Time 2. These two brothers are desperately after the eggs of the Great Valley, and have become fixated on one egg in particular that ends up hatching into a baby T-Rex called Jumper, who Littlefoot and friends adopt. Fans of the original film may be disappointed that the first ever sequel's villains are nowhere near as scary as the iconic Sharptooth. But once you accept that this sequel is meant to have a lighter tone, and that these brothers are supposed to be goofy villains, then you can really appreciate them both as a vaudevillian comedy act, brilliantly performed by a snobby Jeff Bennett and a wide-eyed Rob Paulson.
Now is the time for all good little eggs to be safely tucked into their nests.
Oh, I wouldn't mind being tucked in. I'm exhausted.
There's so much hilarious content to come from both Ozzy's crazed obsession with eggs and his aggressive determination to force his own brother to share his diet, all while poor Strut is starving for any kind of food at all.
Spit that stuff out! Go on, spit it out!
But Ozzy, I'm hungry.
Spit it out, you grass guzzler! No brother of mine is going to eat vegetation!
Ozzy is so infatuated with eggs that he even gets a whole villain number about them, and it's actually one of the most memorable songs in the franchise. I'm impressed how much musical material the film got out of eggs of all things.
You've got to smell them, feel them, crack them open for a great nestful, I am hoping.
It's also entertainingly bizarre how our villain's egg devotion leads them to developing a personal vendetta against literal children, all because they took one egg from them. They're clearly hungry as hell, yet they choose to waste their time getting revenge on the kids that interrupted their breakfast.
Leaving? So soon? But you haven't had your baths.
Me no need bath. Me take one just yesterday.
You smelly old egg stealers better watch it.
Their choice to put personal principles before survival might help them make for intimidating antagonists while the kids are trying to raise Chomper, but their grudge against these children just leads to one blunder after another, because these idiots chose to harass a bunch of children who happen to be mates with a Sharptooth.
You I like much better as an egg. What the?
McBrusk, from An American Tale, The Treasure of Manhattan Island. This corrupt police officer takes huge pleasure in brutalizing citizens, and even smugly brags about his abuse like his beatings were his medals.
Then he looks at me and asks, "Have you no mercy?" So I says, "Wait, no, let me check." As a matter of fact, no! That's when we let him have it!
He's being bribed by the cheese industry owners into keeping their employees in line. It's quite shocking how grittily realistic this film's take on police brutality is. It doesn't sugarcoat how violent a police state can be, and how far a dirty cop will go for a sleazy bribe. Even though McBrusk's beatings are shown in shadow, they somehow come off as really violent for a kids movie.
This is like Russia all over again.
He doesn't abide by the law or worry about keeping up a reputation. He will always put business or pleasure before public safety. Even when the cheese factory owners spur on a mob riot against Native Americans, McBrus does nothing to quell the mob and actually joins their hunt for a native girl that's living in New York.
Well, what do you know? It's the little Indian maiden.
Heck, McBrus becomes the one who invades the natives' underground home as he leads his police force to war against an innocent tribe that just wants to live in peace. Who knows what he would have done if the natives didn't outnumber his team? In the film's end, Tiger takes his place, and I couldn't think of a better replacement.
Patience, we'll find a way to regain control. Remember, there are lots of ways to skin a cat.
I beg your pardon?
Never mind.
So we're halfway through my list. Who is your favourite Don Bluth sequel villain and why? Comment below with your answer. Rinkus and Sierra from The Land Before Time 7. These pterodactyls are helping Petrie's uncle Tyranno gain leadership in the Great Valley, but really they're using him to find the mysterious stone of cold fire. While one is dim-witted and the other is way too bad-tempered, they do have enough street smarts to read through situations.
Them brats wasn't falling for your little act. I said we go find that cold fire thingy on our own.
Neither of them are reluctant in harming kids, and even see kidnapping as the fun part of their scheme. They're having to follow a leader who doesn't know what he's doing, so threatening kids becomes a bonus in their job.
Oh dear. I hope the children were able to find cover.
Who cares? Once we take over, first thing I'm gonna do is feed them overgrown eggs to the sharp teeth.
What makes them truly engaging though, is seeing the two struggling to keep up their partnership with Tyranno. It's obvious that they're losing respect for Tyranno, and they even end up using him as a degrading projectile.
Can't catch us! Can't catch us!
Don't bet on it, you little...
But if Rinkus and Sierra don't fully commit to their servitude, then they won't be able to use their leader to their advantage. So we get to entertainingly watch the duo butter up this narcissistic pterodactyl, all while they actually want to knock him out deep down.
Look at these wings! Look at this beak!
I guess you could say you're quite unique.
When I finish with him, he won't even squeak.
What did you say?
However, once Tyranno officially wears out his use to them, they end up humiliating themselves when they realise that all their ass-kissing has led them to nothing, and they get a deservingly explosive comeuppance. Mr. Grasping, Mr. Toplofty, and Mr. O'Bloat from An American Tale: The Treasure of Manhattan Island. These three cheese factory owners are a cruel team of privileged employers who mistreat, belittle, and overwork their employees. While their underpaid workers slave away, this pompous wine-chugging trio just lays about or scheme together.
My colleagues, gather round, please, since you and I all know that if our mice keep working, our profit's sure to grow.
They claim to sympathise with the working class, yet they do no hard labour themselves, and always make announcements from a palace-like balcony.
Of course, all of you will have to triple your output.
Triple our output?
What's in it for us?
Your jobs, that's what.
There's not a single humble bone in their lazy bodies. Heck, their biggest desire is to keep their employees in fear, to avoid any protests or union rising, even if it means ordering police brutality against staff, or threatening to not give a week's pay to workers.
Why should we let this dawdler keep his job?
He won't be late again. He's afraid of you. I'll make sure he knows you called the shots.
These villains traumatize Fievel's dad so much that he actually has day nightmares about them. That's how effective their effort to strike fear really is.
We're never gonna make it working for those fat rats at the factory. Please, Papa. There's no reason to be afraid.
Once there's tension of a possible rebellion, the devious trio take advantage of these scared and tired workers by cunningly shifting the blame for their terrible lives onto Native Americans. It's a despicably racist campaign that spurs on a mob mentality from everyone, all while those in charge sit by and let the chaos unfold, relishing in the bounty of avoiding accountability.
Dr. Dithery, do you admit to aiding the Indian?
Well, yes, but I don't see why.
Guilty! Guilty!
Luckily, the big-hearted Mr. Mousekewitz finds the courage to be a beacon of light and a voice of reason, becoming the very symbolic working-class hero that our villains have been terrified of.
It's them!
dividing us with hatred, ignorance, fear.
Don't listen to him! He's not one of us! He's a foreigner!
Mister, we are all foreigners.
Madame Mousse. From an American Tale, Mystery of the Night Monster. Mousse is a runaway poodle who feels very self-conscious of her size, and hates being compared to mice. So she's built a monster to help her wipe out every rodent in New York, all while she disguises herself as a French soothsayer. This villain is a bundle of fun, because she's so dang unhinged. A poodle who struggles to contain her feelings, and has to wrestle her temper whenever it's slightly raised.
The world is psychic, not psycho. There's a difference?
Most American Tail villains are pretty dark, but Mousie's scheme is still quite shocking in execution. I mean, she's created an urban legend that's so traumatizing that it haunts every mouse in New York. All the rodents now live in fear, never knowing what the monster actually is, which house it will strike next, or what kind of destruction it'll leave behind. Plus, she's also selling off every kidnapped mouse as cat food to hungry felines, which means that her evil lair is basically an underground meat factory, all managed and farmed by our villain.
Yeah, we got cats all over town, just lined up to buy our product.
There's brains behind all this evil though. You see, her owner is the public works chief of New York, so she knows the city sewers quite well, and she uses this map knowledge to be strategic whenever attacking mouse houses.
That house was owned by the public works chief and his wife till they moved out 6 months ago.
So?
So the wife is also the owner of the dog in the poster.
It's also genius, in a sleazy, awful way, how she's taking on a soothsayer business to exploit all the scared, helpless mice who are desperate for any kind of hope, all while hiding the fact that she's the very monster that is causing their trauma.
Perhaps there is something that is threatening you, something mysterious, supernatural. You know, scary!
I do have to confess though, that her villain defeat is quite underwhelming. It's nowhere near as bad as Belladonna's, but it takes one quick live wire shock to beat her, leaving one of her own minions to pose as the film's final boss.
Okie dokie. Now I'm gonna finish this the old-fashioned way.
All while our actual main baddie is paralyzed stiff. Ludmilla from Bartok the Magnificent. Ludmilla is the royal advisor to Russia's Prince Ivan, and she really resents the boy for not only respecting the boar, but also ignoring her advice. When the prince is, supposedly, kidnapped by Baba Yaga the witch, Ludmilla sends Bartok the bat to rescue him. However, it turns out that Yaga is innocent, and Ludmilla was the real kidnapper. Now, Don Bluth has always taken inspiration from Golden and Silver Age Disney, because those films shaped his style. Ludmilla really comes off like a reimagining of classic villainesses from those eras, with a regal, fanciful character movement and Euro-Gothic dress wear. Voice actress Catherine O'Hara even plays her with an old-fashioned style of acting too, to really recapture the spirit of Eleanor Audley or Lucille Laverne.
Prince Ivan, that is a ring for her Romanov. No commoner may ever wear that.
There's certainly some effort in making her seem suspicious before the twist, with a snobby attitude around the prince.
I'm tired of listening to you, Ludmilla. If I am the future czar, then I will do as I choose.
And a hammy acting after Ivan suddenly vanishes.
Oh, this can't be.
But last night he was in his bed and he
was the ground. And?
Nothing. He's gone.
Making it seem kind of fishy, but not a 100% red flag just yet, because there's no evidence of any plotting or scheming at this point. Though I wouldn't blame some people for catching on that the poor-hating woman who acts and dresses like Maleficent is the baddie. I will admit that it makes very little sense why she made her minion dress up as Baba Yaga when kidnapping the prince, because nobody was around to see said costume. This henchman only disguises himself as Baba Yaga to trick the audience, and fool us into buying the red herring of Baba Yaga, when leaving Yaga's tooth at the scene of the crime was a decent enough fake clue on its own. So yeah, I have mixed feelings about Ludmilla as a twist villain. In spite of this, Ludmilla is very smart to send Bartok off as the chosen knight, because it makes the Russians believe that she genuinely wants to save the prince, while she also puts faith into a tiny bat failing his quest. It's a very wise strategy on her end. However, this film was all about treasuring inequalities, and Ludmilla's shallow judgment of Bartok's potential is her undoing.
Ouch. Ah, brave bat. you have returned from your difficult journey. Healthy. Alive.
Saying that, it's impressive that she uses Bartog's success against him in a sneaky move that shows that she is capable of adapting to change.
You with the talk about taking my head and everything.
I still might.
Hey!
This wouldn't go straight to her head though, as she then swallows a potion that's supposed to enhance its drinker's inner self tenfold, which Ludmilla foolishly sees as a positive for her, only for said potion to gradually transform her into the monster that she really is deep down, all while she bellows a banger of a villain song, ignorant to a mutating public image.
Starting today, every whisper turns into a shout!
It's a terrific insult to her giant bloated ego, and a great way of teaching kids about the importance of inner beauty.
Oh my goodness.
Qatar Wall from An American Tale: Fievel Goes West. This wicked feline plans to trick the mice of New York into joining a western utopia, where cats and mice get along in peace. But it's actually all a secret trap to create the ultimate mouse burger. He's a sophisticated and classy narcissist who has evidently weaved every step of his scheme with intricate cunning, each stage of his operation designed to manipulate the mice into trusting his vision. Whether he's using a puppet mouse as a relatable face for his propaganda,
The anointed leader of the cats, a Mr. Cat R. Wall, is one of the most enlightened, intelligent, sophisticated, charming, non-narcissistic, debonair, suave,
or playing up a tender uncle act to all the scared rodents who have left their homes.
a world where cats and mice live and work side by side. A world where mothers raise their mouselings without fear.
It's extra sneaky that he's using the same mice that he wants for his mouse burger as free labour to build a sleazy hideout for his fellow devious cats, with every mouse being none the wiser to the fact that they're slaves for a cult.
You will see that out west, cats are good.
Oh, and when our villain has a ribbon cutting ceremony, he creatively disguises a mousetrap as an audience stand for the mice, which is honestly one dang imaginative idea for bait.
It's a giant mousetrap! It's a giant mousetrap! They're gonna squash the mice!
This cat scheme is so articulate that it makes sense that he feels like he can't be stopped.
Put simply, Mouseling, I am the law here, and you're a mere hors d'oeuvre.
It would be naive to overpraise Qatar Wall as some invincible genius though. He has his own weaknesses and fears as a villain, like despising the idea of being a pet to a human because he feels above that, or being a super fan of Tanya's beautiful singing voice. And these things do get used against him.
Stop! You'll crush the beaver!
Last of all, can we take a moment to gush at how awesome his swivel gun is? In a film where most folks are armed with a slingshot, a weapon this badass really sticks out, all while fitting Qatar Wall's penchant for theatrics.
Morons.
Trigger the mousetrap!
Red, from All Dogs Go to Heaven 2. This twisted cat devil is trying to get his hands on Gabriel's horn from our hero Charlie, with help from his new assistant, Carface. There's a nuanced effectiveness to Red's friendly dog disguise that really wowed me. Red is this larger-than-life demon, yet he's a talented enough actor to pull off a much more subdued character.
Yeah, enjoy.
What's the catch, old man?
No catch. Any friend of Carface is a friend of mine.
With an element of sneaky manipulation woven into his performance, as he hooks Charlie into being addicted to a mortal visibility collar to trap him into a trade for the horn, while also pretending to seem slightly disinterested in said horn to ward off any suspicion. It's peak villain trickery that's so dang smooth.
I have this horn.
Sorry, I'm not musical.
Oh, and it's dark as damn how he later turns the collar against Charlie, showing our hero how much control and force he has against his deal victims.
That'll be a good little bow wow.
Heck, Red is imposing in general for such a campy villain. Not only does he turn the legendary Alcatraz prison into his personal villain lair, something that Belladonna unoriginally copied off of him, but he also casually eats a live rat in said jail, as Carface watches on in horror. That's another thing. He's so scary that he even makes a cold-hearted gangster like Carface tremble in his presence.
Silence!
Imagine a villain being so intense that he makes the first movie's villain into his lapdog.
Then I did good? Have a bone.
When Red finally gets a hold of the horn, the film goes nuts on his menace, as he triples in size to become a giant to our heroes, all while he cruelly sends innocent dog angels into rusty and dank prison cells. This villain truly is evil incarnate, and the ultimate hellish foe for mortal dogs. Before I reveal my number 1 pick, please consider subscribing to my channel for more animation related content. Tyranno, from The Land Before Time 7. Petrie's uncle Tyranno is a villain who believes that he's the one dino destined to lead the Great Valley, and he commands his team on a quest to find the legendary Stone of Cold Fire to gain power. It can be tricky to write a morally complex baddie for a kids movie, because filmmakers tend to keep things simple for children. But this movie had enough faith in its young audience to address the grayscale spectrum of good and evil.
Sometimes we're wrong, sometimes we're right, but mostly we're somewhere in between.
He's a boastful pterodactyl who has deluded himself into thinking that he's some great leader, even though he doesn't demonstrate any leadership skills at all. He's just got a superiority complex.
Yes, I'm a very important creature, tremendously brave and strong. I find that I'm frequently right when others are often wrong.
He did once lead his own herd many years ago, but his lack of ability became exposed when he failed to make the right call. The problem is that he never ever took responsibility for said mistake.
It was his fault that they got into such danger.
A real leader must be willing to take the credit when things are good and the blame when they go bad.
Instead of growing from his experience, he's become a manipulative crook as he uses the kids of the Great Valley as pawns in his scheme, taking the most advantage of Petrie, who clearly craves for an adult male figure in his life.
Well then, as one adventurer to another, perhaps you could do me one tiny, harmless favor.
While he's missing the skills required for competent leadership, he's still a very tactical villain. Someone who has obviously overthought about every risk and consequence in his plan.
If you threaten the young ones, it will put the elders on alert. They will watch our every move, and our cause will be lost.
However, underneath his smug pride is a caring dinosaur with a strong sympathy for his fellow dinos. I mean, he did actually feel heartbreak when he lost his original herd. It's just that he refused to hold accountability for their deaths. As his new villain scheme falls apart, thread by thread, he starts to see his past mistakes in a new light, and finally begins to understand the importance of responsibility.
I was responsible for that little swimmer, and now I've lost her.
This second attempt at a rise to power helps him to develop hindsight and approach his trauma with more maturity. Most amazing of all, when he finally faces his punishment for his crimes, which he does deserve, he's come far enough to accept said comeuppance with dignity, while also using his story to movingly teach his nephew about responsibility too.
We must all be accountable for our actions. I'll be fine.
I will miss you, Uncle.
Next, watch my ranking of every Don Bluth original villain, from Berkeley Beetle to Rasputin. Cheerio, folks.